Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week I've got a special treat for you. I'm sharing my entire presentation from the recent Engage conference in Portland. A few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to get invited to speak at Engage, one of my favorite conferences. SEM PDX puts on an amazing conference in Portland every year, and I haven't spoken there since before COVID. It was an amazing event, and it was great to catch up with so many speaker friends I hadn't seen in ages. But as always, I wanted to share my slides with you on this week's episode. Obviously, that'll make this episode a bit longer than usual, so kick back and get comfy.
This is the art of local SEO. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Search Lab, but you probably already know that because you're watching this on my video series. I'm also lucky enough to get to speak at a lot of conferences all over the world, but sometimes that's not a great thing because you'll see salespeople that are on stage just trying to pitch their products, and they're not great at speaking on stage, and they have no design in their decks whatsoever. So the slides have no images, no colors, no nothing. It's a plain white background, black Arial font, and they pack every slide with bullet points. And they've actually done studies to prove that bullet points kill kittens. So we're not going to have any bullet points in the entire presentation today. Hopefully you got my Terrifier reference there at the beginning. I'm a massive movie fan, and my favorite genre is horror movies. And since this conference was only about a week before Halloween, I went with a horror theme. So we've got at least one horror movie for every year in the last 50 years with a total of 106 references. There will be some older stuff. You won't know what it is, so there is attribution to the side. So not only will you learn some amazing stuff about local SEO, you'll have an awesome list of horror movies to go watch here right after Halloween. And if you're worried that it might be too violent or too scary, I can definitely put those fears to rest. The scariest thing that you'll see in here is all of the 80s fashion. So why the long face? Do you need a hand with getting your site to show up better in local searches? Luckily, I've got a few to spare, so I'm here to help. And a lot of people get confused by the local algorithm, but I don't want you to lose your head. You don't actually have to bend over backwards to get great results, because I'm here today with some tips that are so amazing, it will literally rock your face off. And you'll be able to make your sites so amazing that all it does is turn customers' heads. It's important to understand that Google's local algorithm is really different from the traditional algorithm. It weights additional factors that the traditional algorithm doesn't even look at, and it includes those additional signals and different weights on factors that are in the traditional algorithm, which means you need to optimize differently if you're trying to optimize for the local algorithm. So how do you know if you actually need local SEO? Well, if you do face-to-face business with customers, you need local SEO. And sometimes you may need it even if you don't. So search for a few of your most important money-making keywords. And if you see a map pack displayed, that means Google says that query sometimes has local intent and you should be doing local SEO. You should also be paying attention to the annual Local Search Ranking Factor Study, which is a study conducted by Whitespark every year, or almost every year because we skipped 2024. But it basically talks to the top 40-ish local SEO experts on the planet and aggregates all of their answers to get a great idea of the factors that influence local search visibility. So you get two pie charts, one that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the map pack or in Google Maps, and another that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the localized organic results below the map pack. And the Local Search Ranking Factor Study is literally your annual guide, or almost annual guide, for what you should be doing. It tells you the factors that influence visibility and how they're weighted. So if you need help understanding how local SEO works, either because you're new to it, or maybe you need to convince your boss that it's time to shift strategies, this video that uses pizza delivery as an example is a great example to use. Basically, if you're doing a search at your office for the two words pizza delivery, you get different search results than if you do the exact same search with the exact same words at home. Even though you didn't type in a city or a phrase like near me, Google still knows that it's a query with local intent, and it will change the search results based on your physical location, where you are when you're doing the search. It's also important to understand that it's not the old school SEO experience of just adding a few keywords here and there to hopefully match the algorithm. It's much more advanced. Really, the things that you do today to show up better in Google are the same things you do to improve your website for customers. And conversion optimization is important as well because it's much easier to get more conversions out of the traffic you're already getting than to get more traffic. But we know that people shop around. They don't just sit down and Google something and buy. So they're going to see your competitors even if you outrank them before they move far enough down the funnel to convert into a lead. So that means you need to make sure you stand out from the competition and that you're appealing and that you're memorable. You've got to give people a reason to come back to your website and convert at a later date. And that's not really going to happen if you've got the same generic BS content as everybody else in town, because why would anyone care? Why would anyone want to come buy from you if you have the same generic BS content as everyone else? So make sure that your content is used to prove to people why your business is awesome and why they should buy from you and not from the competition, which means you need to make sure that your content is actually about your business and about the local area. And there's a really easy way to test it. Take your homepage content. It's the easiest test to run. Change only 2 things. Every time your business name appears, change it to a different business name. Every time the city that you're actually in and only that city appears, change it to a different city. Could you take your content, throw it on a similar business's website on the other side of the country? Would that content still work? If it would, it's not really about you and it's not really about your city. Another really important content test that you should always run is to read it out loud to another person. Don't think through it in your head. Read it out loud because your ears will catch things that don't sound conversational, and everything on your site should sound like something that you say face to face to a customer or potentially over the phone to a customer. So when you read it out loud, you'll catch those odd turns of phrase that your marketing brain will see keyword, 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 but your ear will say, wow, that doesn't sound like the way I would talk. The most important thing that you can remember about showing up in search results on Google is that if you want to show when someone types in a particular keyword phrase, you need a dedicated page of content on your website about that singular concept. And that page just doesn't have to be the best page on the internet. You only need to have the best answer in the local area to the question that the searcher is asking. And if you're writing the best answer, you're probably going to answer some of the subsequent questions that the searcher might ask once they get their initial answer. It's also important when you're adding content to your site to understand what phrases and what concepts you should be targeting. Ideally, you should only be adding content that is going to increase your visibility. Don't try to add content around things that you already rank well for. If you're the only Ford dealer in town, you're already going to rank for that. You don't need to add more Ford dealer content. You also need to optimize your content differently when you're targeting the local algorithm. So as you optimize each page element, you have to use the same keyword phrase and same location phrase in each page element, starting with the title tag, which is the most weighted element on the page, and you should never put your business name first. Always use your most important money-making keyword and your location keyword. They should also be in the H1 heading. You should only have one H1 heading on the page. Can you have more? Sure, but you're doing it wrong. Just have a single H1 on the page that's a little bit more conversational than the title tag that includes the same keyword and city. Also in the page content, but if you've been writing the best answer in the local area to the question the customer is asking and answering subsequent questions and talking about you and why you're amazing, you probably won't have to do much optimization here. You also need it in the alt text on your images. This is something that used to be part of the algorithm because Google couldn't understand what was in an image. Now Google can understand what's in an image, but this is still included in the algorithm, and it's something that most people don't do either at all or do well. Plus, if your business is in the United States, ADA compliance law states that all websites have to be accessible to anyone, regardless of their level of ability, and anyone with a visual impairment will use a browser that's a screen reader, and that browser can't tell what's in the image. So if you don't have alt text, you could actually get sued by someone with a visual impairment for not having an accessible website. You should also have the same keyword phrase and city in the URL of the page if it's an internal page on the site. I'm not saying go back and change pages that already exist once they're indexed. It won't really matter. But as you create new pages, make the URLs friendlier. And finally, you need it in the meta description. Now, this doesn't influence ranking, but since the meta description populates the couple of gray sentences underneath your blue link when you show as a search result in Google, it's important to have them there because you'll get more click-throughs. It's also important to have a blog, and a lot of people think even today that a blog is social fluff, but it's not. It's vital, and you've got to post on a regular basis. But the reason it's vital is because there's a massive difference between the kind of content that goes on the main section of your website and the kind of content that goes on your blog. The main website content should be bottom of funnel content that is meant to show up in search results and generate leads. Your blog content is where your mid to upper funnel content goes. You shouldn't expect to get leads from that content, but people will come back and convert at a later date. In fact, you can get noticed before people are looking for you if you share helpful information about the local area. We call this pre-funnel content because if all your content is only bottom of funnel content, you're targeting a very narrow portion of your local audience. This helps you target the entire local audience and get more eyeballs on your site. If you need ideas for how to do it, here's a blog that walks you through 10 amazing ideas that you can use as a springboard to create your own localized content. And everyone always wants to rank in the towns nearby, but before you try to optimize and target other nearby cities, you've got to own your backyard. This video walks you through it in more detail, but basically you need to be sure that you rank well in the town where you're already located before you try to out SEO people in other locations, because it really comes down to optimization and content at that point, because you lose the location signal by not having a Google business profile in the other city. So if you're not optimized well enough to show up in your own town, you're not going to be able to show up in other cities. But when you're ready to do this, if it's not a level of competition that's going to be difficult, you'd probably be okay with city pages. So if you're more rural, these will work really well, and this video walks you through how to set them up. But if there's more competition, you're going to need to be a bit more advanced and do local content silos, and this video will walk you through how to do that. The local algorithm also evaluates links differently. Authority really doesn't matter. In fact, the links that you want to get are local links, and typically those will have low authority because most small local businesses aren't doing SEO. And we don't care if it's a no-follow link. The no-follow attribute literally does not matter to the local algorithm. All you need to worry about is that you're getting links from local businesses and local websites. And the easiest way to do this is to just get involved in the local community, and then it's really easy to get those amazing local links. Do all the old school marketing tactics that people used to do before we had the internet. And if you're not quite sure how to build local links, I've got another amazing video that will walk you through some awesome local link building tactics. You can also use our onboarding questionnaire that we send out to all new clients that will help you identify low-hanging fruit to get quick links and also help you prioritize link building efforts moving forward based on the vibe of each individual client. Customer reviews are another important element in the local algorithm. In fact, they've gained weight every year for the past few years. But I'm not talking about your testimonials page. Nobody cares about your testimonials page. Customers want to see honest, unbiased reviews on third-party websites. So you've got to be proactive because it's not human nature to leave a review when you're happy. So watch this video. It will walk you through the entire process, but one important call out is literally making it easier and making sure you ask every customer for a review, again, because happy customers won't necessarily leave you a review. You want to make sure you're answering every review as well, not just the good ones, not just the bad ones, but all of them. But remember, when you're responding to a bad review, your response is not for the person that left the review. It's for every potential customer in the future that wants to see how you handled the bad situation. And a lot of people think that if they have the most reviews, they're going to win, but that's not really the case. The algorithm only cares that you have more than the local competition. It doesn't really matter how many you have. And some cool research here. You know, the default order of reviews that you see on your profile before you click the filter to watch or to read the newest reviews or the best reviews or the worst reviews. If a review includes a photo, it's stickier and it stays in that default sort for a longer period of time. If a review has more text, it's stickier and it stays in the default sort order for a longer period of time. And if a review has 2 or more thumbs up, it's stickier and it stays in the default sort order for a longer period of time. So if you get a bad review in that default sort order, really in the top 10 there, you can bury it pretty quickly by adding all 3 to reviews that you already have. So reach out to people that have recently left a 5-star review, ask them to add a little more text and a photo, and once they've done so, then you just go have a couple of people at your business give that review a thumbs up, and it will jump to the top of the list, and you can bury that bad review really quickly. It's also important to understand all of the implications of the new FTC update around review laws. Fake reviews are now illegal at the federal level. This includes buying fake reviews. This includes having friends or family leave reviews. This also includes actually buying fake social media followers. So go watch this video. It walks you through all of the new updates to the FTC review laws. And Google is now penalizing businesses that have fake reviews in the UK, which means it's probably likely this is going to roll out worldwide. So we're starting to see some alerts like this that on the business profile right by the review section warns customers that suspicious looking reviews have been removed from the business. So you got to watch out. They're really cracking down on this stuff. And finally, we got to talk about the big part of local SEO, your Google business profile. It's your homepage. It's the first impression that you make with potential customers, and a properly optimized profile allows you to show up more often in those coveted map pack spots at the top of search results. So make sure you fill out everything that you can fill out, and make sure that the landing page of your business profile, which is usually your homepage, but could potentially be a location page if it's a multi-location business with a single website, that GBP landing page needs to be optimized for your most important money-making keyword and the city that you're in. Make sure you've listed your correct hours. Do not go list yourself as being open for 24 hours because you think that's going to make you rank better. The openness factor is on purpose, and it makes sense if you're looking for a business and most of the businesses are closed, but there are a few that are open, that Google would display those at the top of the search results. But changing your hours to 24 hours doesn't mean that you're going to rank better when you're open. It only potentially means you might rank better when you're closed, depending on the vertical, but then you're also opening yourself up to a lot of bad reviews and upset customers. So make sure your actual hours are listed. Make sure you've uploaded a lot of high quality photos. Make sure you've selected the correct categories, and pay special attention to what you choose as your primary category, because according to this year's local search ranking factor study, this is the most influential factor that will affect how you show up in map pack search results. So watch this video. It walks you through how to think strategically about what you should have there, because it's not always the category you think it should be. It's important to add UTM tracking to your website links as well to be sure that attribution is correct in Google Analytics, because quite often the referral data is not passed into Google Analytics, which means that traffic will get classified as direct instead of organic. So watch this video. It walks you through how to set up UTM tracking so that you get better data inside of Google Analytics so you can make better marketing decisions. I always like to point out that Google support kind of sucks. It's not really that great, and they have to follow scripts, and so it typically doesn't help very much, if at all. So if you're having problems with your business profile, don't go to support. Instead, post on the Google Business Profile Community Forum. And there are people on the forum that will answer the questions called product experts. These are people that have been endorsed by Google because they've answered enough questions correctly on the forum, so you can trust that a product expert has the right answer to your question. You should be using Google Posts to stand out and get more click-throughs. I did a Whiteboard Friday a few years back that is still incredibly relevant. You should go watch it. It's about 13 minutes long that describes exactly how to be successful with Google Posts. But really, the secret to success is paying attention to the thumbnail of your Google post, because most people just pay attention to the full content, but if the thumbnail isn't compelling, no one's going to click on it to see what you put in your post. And it's difficult to have a great looking thumbnail because image cropping is super wonky and inconsistent, and it's a slightly higher than vertical center crop. So many times you crop out important elements of your image. So we created a Photoshop guide that you can download for free at this URL, and it looks like this. Anything within the white grid is considered safe and will show up in your thumbnail, and the rest will appear once they've clicked the thumbnail to see the full posts. There's also been a lot of research that's been done that shows that if you don't use stock images and you use your own unique images, you will typically get up to 5 times more click-throughs on those Google posts. You should also pay attention to the questions and answers widget in your Google Business Profile. It allows anybody to ask you a question, but it also allows any random a-hole to answer that question for you. The general public thinks that when they click the Ask a Question button, that they're going into some sort of a chat widget, but it's really a community discussion feature. And because it's a community discussion feature, questions can receive multiple answers, and whichever answer has the most thumbs up is the answer that's displayed as the primary answer. So you need to make sure that your owner answers, which are labeled as business owner answers, are always upvoted the most so that all of the answers in your Q&A section come from your business. You're even allowed to set up your own questions, load in your own common questions. And people think that this is against the rules, but Google actually encourages it. We call it a pre-site FAQ because no one's going to go to your website and read through all your questions to see if maybe their question has an answer. And nobody's really going to read through them on your Google Business Profile, but it's really cool the way that Google built this. So if a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, as someone is typing their answer in, Google will automatically display an answer to their question. So they get an answer faster than if they were actually talking to a human or even an AI chatbot. It's also important to understand the details around the new reinstatement process for suspended Google Business Profiles that has been rolled out worldwide. So go watch this video. It walks you through all of the updates, but most importantly, understand that once you start the process, the 60-minute timer of doom starts, and you only have 60 minutes to get all of your documentation together to send in to prove your case. And if you don't do it in 60 minutes, the window is closed and you are toast. So you got to be really careful here. The last important bit to talk about is our SEO scoring matrix that we use for conferences and demos. It's basically a mini audit, and it scores the 4 areas that influence your visibility in local search, which is the content on your site and how it's optimized, the links pointed to your website from other websites, your Google Business Profile and how that's optimized, and your reviews on Google and Yelp and how you respond to those reviews. I love to point out that we built this to score on tactics, not on strategy. Most people use those terms interchangeably, but strategy is the direction you're going, and tactics are the steps that you take to get there. Because we're scoring basic tactics, people can't really argue that the results aren't trustworthy. You know how it is with the HubSpot site graders and the SEMrush page graders and all those types of sites. It's pretty easy to refute the results and say, well, these tools are really, really general and they don't really understand our strategy or your particular vertical, so you can kind of ignore them. But these are basic tactics that anyone that knows SEO would really agree are important. So it's really hard to argue that strategy would matter. I mean, honestly, strategy won't even matter if you don't have the right basic tactics in place. And using this on demo calls was a massive game changer. Immediately, we more than doubled our close rate on demo calls. So those 4 areas are then weighted to approximate their importance to Google's algorithm, and you can get a score anywhere from 0 to 100 points, although negative points are possible for certain elements. The highest score we've ever seen is an 83.6. It's pretty much impossible to get a perfect score. But the lowest we've seen was a negative 71.5. And the average is only 18 points out of 100. If you'd like to check it out, here's a link to the generic one that works for any local business. And also we have versions for particular verticals that we specialize in. So you can see how we adjusted the matrix to work for some of the specific elements that are needed on an auto dealer website. So you could basically take this and adjust it and use it for your particular vertical. And you can download both of those to check them out. It's really great for pointing out obvious local SEO opportunities. And it's also great for your team if the client ends up working with you because you've got an amazing guide for initial site optimization. I know that was a lot. Thank you for sticking with me through that roller coaster of information. Hopefully now you won't be a basket case when you're thinking about how you show up in search results, because I've opened your eyes to the power of local SEO and I've given you the keys to success. You've got the hook to get customers to really like your site, and you'll be able to break out of your shell and do better SEO so that everyone will be happy. Thank you so much. That was The Art of local SEO. There's my email address. If you have any questions, please pop me an email. I'd love to answer them for you. Or if you'd like a copy of the slides, definitely let me know. And as always, at the end, there is a list of all the movies by order of release date.
Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole thing. That's definitely all the time we have left for this week's episode. So you know what that means? Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.